Hello, 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 and welcome to a brand new episode of Three Drams. As always, I am your host, Matt Healy from potstill.com. I am delighted to be welcoming you guys to episode 27 of Three Drams for January 2023. As always, I am delighted to have you all here from across the world joining us. Whether you're watching live or you're watching back after the fact, it is always great to be able to touch base with the Irish whiskey community around the world. We are, as always, brought to you by the guys from Irish Malts and Three Drams. I have the fantastic job of being here with you every week or every month even to speak to the flavor creators and makers from all these fantastic brands, but it is the guys in Irish Malts and Three Drams that do all the hard work in the background. So to the O'Donovan brothers and their team, a very big thank you to them for putting this all together. I do want to say hello to a number of people in the comments. Of course, the people who are joining us for the first time, a very big hello to you. And then, of course, to the people that join us every month religiously. It's always great to see your names in the comment sections. Tina joining us from Germany. Willkommen in Irland. The best in whiskies aus Irland here tonight. So we're going to have a great time. We're seeing Rob in from Middleton as well. Lovely to have you, Rob. Joseph's joining us in from Galway. It's great to have good representation around the country. We're seeing JB in from London. But we have Claire. I know that we have a couple of our famous walking group from Schneeman, County Kerry, joining us as well this evening. So great representation around the place. I do see Shane saying in the comments that his kids are upstairs. The home is a bomb, but he's having great whiskeys, and that's sure. Look, there's no better way to be enjoying your whiskeys at that point. As always, we have three fantastic guests this evening, bringing us three of Ireland's most interesting new and whiskeys, and I am really, really delighted to have this lineup. This is one of the most exciting lineups in terms of personalities to have on the show. In quite a while, so I'm delighted to be bringing you an evening with John Cashman from Fercullen and Paris Court Whiskey. Then we also have Jennifer from Tipperary Boutique Distillery, and then Brendan from Killowen as well. So I am sure it's going to be a very fun night and a lot of questions from you guys, I hope, as well. Because always remember, in the comments section, this is your time to shine. You have the flavor makers and creators in front of you. So if you do have questions, ask in the comments section while we're there. But as always, no one is here to listen to me rabbit on. It is all about Irish whiskey and trying some fantastic drops from around the country. So without any further ado, let's jump into our first dram. It is Fercullen Falls, Dram Ever 1, and I am joined by the fantastic Mr. John Cashman. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good, Matt. How are you doing today?
You know what? I'm doing okay. A bit croaky getting over the flu, but I am I'm excited that we have a lovely evening ahead of us. You're going to show us some fantastic whiskeys. This is a whiskey I have yet to taste, but I have been buzzing to try. So I was delighted talking to the guys in Irish Malt so we could get you on this evening. So welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. No, I think you're fortunate if you're just coming over the flu and you've got a few whiskeys in front of you. I think you're going to be in a good place now within the next hour. So early to bed, and you'll feel like a new man in the morning. No
exactly. The wee nips will put me in a good spot. I just do want to say a few more. There's a few more people dropping in to say hi, but they're seeing a good few people looking forward to tasting tonight's whiskeys and to try Fercullen Falls for the first time. So I think both I and the people are excited. But as always, I will invite everyone who's here to take dram number 1 and get it into the glass. We at least have something to nose while we wait. But John, for those that don't know you, would you give us a little introduction to who you are and what you do with Paris Court Distillery and Fercullen Irish Whiskey?
Yeah, well, I'm John Cashman. I'm one of the probably the longest in the industry in the country right now. I'm in the industry over 25 years, working in the whiskey industry. Most of that time was actually working with the Cooley Distillery and John Teeling, and then Beam, and then Suntory. So for a period of time, I was responsible for all Beam Suntory whiskies all over the world, which was a crazy period in my life. But I'm born and bred from Rathdrum, County Wicklow. and I'm delighted now to be back home in County Wicklow, back living on the farm that I grew up in, and working with Powerscourt Distillery. So in Powerscourt Distillery, I'm the head of brand, head of whiskey, head of NPD, new product development, bulk whiskey sales, a little bit of most things, and also the performing monkey who comes out and does events like this. So delighted to have the opportunity to talk through this particular brand, and I suppose bring people into the world of Powerscourt, because like a lot of new distilleries in Ireland, you know, we haven't had the opportunity to really get out there because of COVID over the past few years. And we're slowly getting our brands and getting our story out all over the world. So to have an opportunity like this to talk to people both here domestically in Ireland, and I see people, as you said, from Germany and from other countries tuning in, really looking forward to that. So yeah, delighted to be here.
Perfect. Well, I'm going to pull up a picture of what I had a moment ago of Fercullen Falls. This is what we're talking about this evening. 43% ABV in your lovely bespoke Newton Tall bottle. Excuse me. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, so about this time last year, or beginning of January last year, I took on the position as head of whiskey in Powerscourt Distillery, and part of that was to look at the entire portfolio of brands that were available to the company and see what we would have to do in order to get through the next sort of 5 to 10 years. Very fortunate with Powerscourt that we've been distilling since 2018, and even more fortunate that our founding master distiller Noel Sweeney was able to secure some liquid from his old role in Cooley Distillery. So we were able to release age statement products early off, like in 2018. So we've had an 18-year-old a single malt, a 14-year-old single malt, a 10-year-old single grain, and an 8-year-old blended whiskey. So when I was looking at the stocks, it became quite apparent that, you know, one of the things that happens with mature whiskies is they don't stay the same age forever, and what you haven't used are getting older. So it was becoming quite apparent that we would have to shift and change our portfolio in order to suit what liquid we had to hand. And because we'd been distilling for, by that stage, 3 going on to 4 years, it was about time that we started introducing some of our own Wicklow distilled liquids into a product. Now, one of the downsides of having all this aged liquid that we had purchased in was we were playing at a very premium price point, and we didn't have anything for where 94% of all Irish whiskies are sold, which is in the blended category and under 40 euro. And we didn't have anything in that bracket. So decided to come up with something that would permit us to play where all the action was. And one of the things in the Powerscourt Distillery, we are your classic triple distillation distillery, turnkey by Foresight, state-of-the-art plant. And we'd predominantly been producing malt whiskey over those 4 years. Now, 20% of our output is also pot still whiskey, but malt whiskey was where we were putting a lot of emphasis. So we decided we would come up with some type of a blended whiskey. And then it was really just, how do we go about this? What's it going to look like? What's it going to be called? What's it going to taste like? What's the makeup going to be? Where's it going to fit into our portfolio? Where will it fit into the world of Irish whiskies? And because we had been doing so much with malt, the first thing that we suggested was, let's make this blended whiskey with a really high malt content. So we ended up with a blend that is 50% malt and 50% grain whiskey. So at 50% malt, it's actually probably one of the highest malt blends in the country. Now, there are some of the famous ones like Blackbush, probably a little bit higher, and there are a few others as well that are around the same ratio. And the reason for that was twofold. Firstly, we are a malt distillery, so we wanted people to get an insight into what our malt whiskey is like, get a flavor for it before we actually release our own single malt whiskey, which will be happening later on this year. But secondly, because the whiskey was quite youthful, it is a 4-year-old whiskey, the malt adds more character and adds more depth of flavor to it. Whereas if it's a very high grain blend at 4 years of age, you will have a little bit of astringency coming through at something that is that young. So we said, no, we'll go for 50% malt. all of our malt whiskey had been maturing in ex-bourbon barrels. I think nearly all in this blend is first fill ex-bourbon barrels. So you're going to get lots of that, lots of sweetness, lots of vanilla, all those classic flavors. And then it was, okay, the other 50% of what way we're going to do that. We could, of course, use other malt. We could use pot still, or we could use grain whiskey. Now, I personally love grain whiskey. I love the versatility of grain whiskey. And certainly with Powerscourt, I've released a lot of single cask grain whiskies with different finishes. So I was looking for a particular type of grain whiskey that would complement the soft malty nature of our distillate. So I've got in touch with, like lots of people, the late great Brian Watts, and he sent me down a load of samples of different grain whiskey. So I went through and I chose two that I thought would really work with our malt, and that was 4-year-old grain whiskey that had matured exclusively in ex-bourbon barrels, but also a 4-year-old grain whiskey that had matured exclusively in heavy char fresh oak barrels. And using the ex-bourbon grain whiskies, it was really hammering home that vanilla, that softness, that toffee element. Using the heavy char, it was just adding that little bit extra depth of flavor from grain, but also really giving that burnt caramels, burnt sugars, what you'd expect from something from a heavily charred barrel. Because remember, when you heavily char a barrel, all the sugars in the oak are going to be caramelized. You're going to get that depth of dark sugar, toffee type flavors coming through. And that's what I was looking for. And then it was just a matter of getting the actual ratios correct from just the grain in the bourbon and the grain in the heavy char. All around the same time, we were on the hunt for a new master blender, or head blender and head distiller. And we're fortunate to get Paul Corbett came on board. So I was working with Paul with this. I gave him my ideas. He came back with suggestions, and together we came up with this blend. So, you know, I think I saw you just throw up there. Somebody said really malty on the nose, and that's exactly what we were looking for with this. But for me and any blended whiskies I've been involved with, what I'm always trying to get is the whiskey has to be the sum of its parts, and those individual elements need to be evident in a blend. And with this, I think that first up, you get the maltiness on the nose, but you also then get that lovely fruitiness that is the core of our distillate. Our distillate coming off that triple distilled malt whiskey has these lovely sort of citrus and apple and pear fruit flavors coming through. You're then picking up that intense dark sugar toffee element of the heavy char, and then of course the sweet vanilla of the grain whiskey that is all bourbon. So all of that is there evident on the nose. So it certainly, the nose has achieved what we were looking to get from it. Then
why don't we have a little subfit here? I'm gonna say, I'll bring myself back up and we can say sláinte, and I got a little cheers. And
then the other thing about this whiskey was what we're going to call it. Obviously, Fercullen is our brand. We are the Powerscourt distillery, but Fercullen was the name of the lands that surrounded Powerscourt from the 9th century onwards. So all of our whiskies heretofore have been Fercullen. And all of our whiskies have been like Fercullen 10, Fercullen 8, Fercullen 14, Fercullen 18, and very classic type labels. I mean, if you put a Scotch name on any of our old Fercullen labels, it wouldn't look out of place. It's a classic, what you'd expect a traditional Irish whiskey label to be. So the next big decision that we made with this was the look of the actual label. It's very much a more contemporary look and feel than what we've done heretofore. And the reason for that is very deliberate, because although we're keeping the name Fercullen, this liquid isn't liquid that we've purchased elsewhere. This is liquid that we've made ourselves. So when it's on a shelf, you'll recognize the name Fercullen, but you look at the label and go, that looks different. Why is it different? It's different because it's the liquid that we have made ourselves, or the vast majority of it is the liquid that we've made ourselves in our own distillery. So that was very deliberate. And then the third was the name. Up to now, it's always been like Fercullen 8, Fercullen 14, Fercullen 18, Fercullen single grain, whatever. This has a little subname, so Fercullen Falls. And why Falls? Well, Ireland's highest waterfall is on the Powerscourt estate. So this is to really recognize that, the Powerscourt waterfall. And the design, as you look down this side, this contemporary design is reminiscent of the water actually cascading down that waterfall. And if you stand at a certain point beside the waterfall in Powerscourt, it is at that angle. So all of these really have resonance for what we were trying to achieve. And then the third, as people have sipped it, you might already have noticed more depth of flavor, and that's achieved by a higher than industry standard ABV. So we didn't want to go with the 40% ABV. We sampled across lots of different strengths, and at 43%, we thought it would have a lovely mouthfeel, nice oils going on to the side of your mouth. But more importantly, it wouldn't alienate the sort of new entrant into drinking Irish whiskey. It would also appeal to maybe people who are looking to produce it in cocktails, essentially to drink it whatever way you want, you know. If you want it in a cocktail, in a long drink, in a classic highball, straight up in an Irish coffee, in a hot whiskey. That extra little bit of alcohol really adds to the flavor and adds to that, just allows it to come through that little bit more. So all of these decisions were very deliberate on our part, and we're very happy with the outcome. I think it's a really easy to drink Irish whiskey. I know, again, that can be something of a cliche, but if you put it at the level of other whiskies of that age bracket, that maturity, it really stands up, and it really comes through. So very happy with the way it's ended.
Yeah, you see there from the comment section, people are very much enjoying their imbibing. For me, there's kind of a lovely molasses quality to both the nose and kind of the mid palate, which is very enjoyable. I actually think this would make, as is I suppose a day late, but this would make spectacular Irish coffees.
Yeah.
Now I have had anyone that does know me, I do tour around the country looking for great Irish coffees, but I have had an Irish coffee in the Powerscourt cafe, and it was spectacular. But this one, I'm sure, that was before Fercullen Falls, so I'm sure it'd be a lovely elevation from that point.
Yeah, you know, we're trying to produce something that's really versatile in that regard, and as I said, won't alienate people who are new to the category, but also won't alienate those who enjoy their Irish whiskies and have a selection of different Irish whiskies. That this really has a place, and it allows people to really step up and meet every moment. You know, whatever that moment is in life that you just want to share. You want to share life. You want to share an event. You want to share a celebration. Share it with something like a bottle of Fercullen Falls. It's really made for sharing and enjoying, and hopefully coming back to again and again.
You wouldn't know you're a salesperson, John.
Yeah, I didn't come down in the last rainstorm anyway.
Exactly. So I suppose what did it mean, I suppose, to yourself and the team to have the first Powerscourt spirit showcased in this blend, and internally in a product design capacity, was there any apprehension that I suppose the first release wasn't a standalone malt or a pot still, or was everyone pretty happy to put the stamp on the blend?
I think when it was sampled and people tried it, you just saw faces change immediately, going, "Oh my God, this is the real deal." You know, it was always going to be. I mean, with the likes of Paul Corbett my experience, the rest of the team coming together, you know, the distilling team in Powerscourt have been making exceptional whiskey for almost 5 years now. But as I said, this was also a bit of an economic necessity as well, to allow us to get into other markets whereby maybe our previous product set didn't permit that to happen because of the price points. So this absolutely allowed us to start looking to the United States of America. We'd never looked to the US. We're probably one of the few Irish whiskey brands that didn't start with the US or didn't even think about it. No, we wanted to bed down in other markets, and Germany, France, Asia, other places like that, and of course domestically our home market. So this was something that we had to make happen. But it also is like that little soup, sir. It's that little taste of what's to come, you know. And exactly. By the end of Easter, after Easter, we should be launching our standalone Fercullen single malt, which is 100% distilled on site. It's the it will be the first 100% produced Wicklow whiskey in certainly more than living memory. We've looked up all the records. We can't find distilleries in County Wicklow. And I think it's because of its proximity to Dublin and how just huge the Dublin whiskey industry was. Like in my own village here in Rathdrum, there's a brewery lane. There would have been 2 breweries, but it was never a distillery. So, and we're very excited about that. And this is the first step on that journey. And we have laid down pot still whiskey. We've laid down peated malt whiskey. We've laid down double distilled. We've laid down triple distilled whiskies. So, as the years evolve and when we feel the liquid is ready and right, we will start releasing it. But for now, it's, focus on Falls, focus on the single malt, which is coming down the line. Our limited release 21-year-old, which is picking up awards left, right, and center. That's going to be part of our permanent SKU. And then I'm also going to be launching a 15-year-old Irish whiskey, also probably by the end of Q2. So by the end of this year, you're going to have where Powered Squirt's going for the next few years.
Okay, it'll be telling.
Yes.
Tina in Germany is asking whether you might have some of this teased Powered Squirt single malt at Whiskey Live Dublin this year, which
Whiskey Live Dublin is in May, I believe. Yeah, it's June. Is it May or June? May.
Yeah.
Yes, May. We will. If it's not already out there, I'm in trouble. So it should be released by then. We'll definitely have some at Whiskey Live.
And then in terms of price point and availability in Europe, I know we can get it on Irish malts and we can get it shipped anywhere. Pretty much anywhere where legal, they can get it straight to your door. And of course, if you are subscribed, you will have a discount code in your inbox at the end of the show. So keep an eye out for that. But for the rest of the world, rest of Europe at the moment, particularly Germany.
This is available through our distributor in Germany, which is irishwhiskies.de, and they have it. It's available through all of our distribution network around the world. A container of it just landed in New York 3 days ago. Second container is leaving for United States in another 2 weeks. This is available in South Korea. So it is widely available here in Ireland, obviously Irish malts. But also all good independents, O'Brien's, Nationwide, Next Door, Carry Out, and Super Value. It's available in your local Super Value. If it's not on shelf, just ask for it. They can buy it. They can get it for you. So do me a favor and give it a shout out.
Exactly. And there is something to be said. Off licenses don't buy, particularly independent off licenses, don't buy things that people aren't asking for. So if you see that Fercullen Falls or anything we're tasting this evening that you wish is to be on your off-license shelves, ask, even if you know it's not there, because they won't bring it in if people aren't asking for it. So John, I very much appreciate your time. This is a bottle I'm going to have to fix firmly on my back shelf. I said I told either off camera or on camera that I've been waiting to taste this, so I'm delighted to have my first time here. Thank you for bringing your wealth of knowledge and explanation of Fercullen Falls to us this evening, and of course, I hope you enjoy yourself. And any last parting words before we tie it up?
No, just enjoy it as my old friend Fred No from Chimbeam used to say. Drink it any goddamn way you want. Just enjoy the whiskey. And 38 to 40 euro. There we go.
There you go. Perfect.
Well. And I'm looking forward to the next 2 whiskeys as well.
Wonderful. Feel free to hang out in the green room, of course. And I would say a very big thank you and have a good evening.
Cheers, Matt. Take care.
Bye-bye. Well, that is dram number 1 underway. I am delighted now to be moving on to dram number 2. This is Tipperary Homegrown Barley, batch number 2, and I'm being joined by founder Jennifer Nickerson. Jennifer, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hey, Matt. How you doing? How are you?
I am good. I am delighted to have you on the show. Is this your first time on 3 Drams?
No, I've been on once before, but it was I think Robert, and it was Killowen as well, and I can't remember who was the other person on as well.
There you go.
A bit of I feel like we should tell everyone that we're both lying, that we're not feeling great. We're both very sick, and we're like drinking lemon sip in between takes.
Yes, but we're powering through. So as I said, I've had to discreetly mute myself to cough horrendously while John was talking, but thankfully
I saw that while John was talking. I was like, this is excellent. I hope everyone else appreciates this.
Yeah, well, thankfully he's so encapsulating of a speaker. I'm sure nobody noticed, but I won't hold everyone up just for a second. This is dram number 2, the Tipperary Homegrown Barley batch number 2. I'm just going to fill some into my lovely tour glass here, and then why don't you tell the people at home that don't know you who you are, who Tipperary is, and I'll have a little nose of this glass quietly in the background.
Yeah, so I am Jennifer Nickerson. I'm the founder and managing director of Tipperary Boutique Distillery. We have been running as Tipperary Boutique Distillery Limited since about 2015. We founded the company, we sourced whiskey, we then started maturing on site, and we slowly moved it until we built our distillery. So it took until 2020. We're sourcing whiskey from elsewhere, sourcing casks, using Stuart's expertise to kind of develop a taste, develop a whiskey that we thought gave people, a few different whiskies that we thought gave people an idea of what we liked out of whiskey. They're variable because I'd say our tastes are variable. So what we like are complexity. We like, I'd say our tastes are a little bit across the board. So like we're generally into single malts, but we do like single pot still, put some single pot still down. And we also have a single grain out at one point as well. So what we did in the meantime while we were setting up our own distillery is we took our own grain and we had it distilled to other distilleries. So we grow our own grain at Tipperary Boutique Distillery. Our aim has always been to be a grain to glass distillery. It's taken us until when we got our distilling license in 2020 to achieve that aim. And it's going to take us, I would say, it'll probably be 2024, 25 before we release the first whiskey that we distilled. We grew, distilled, matured, bottled ourselves on site. But in the meantime, you're getting to get little tweaks of what we're doing as we're going along. So this is something that we've grown the grain for. We flew my father Stuart over to distill it. We then took it home, matured it on the farm, and bottled it ourselves. So hopefully it gives you an idea of what we like. Sorry, Matt, I totally went off the run.
That's okay. That's okay. So just for the people at home that don't know, your husband is a fantastic grain farmer in Tipperary, and your father is a kind of behemoth of the Scotch and global whiskey industries. Why don't you just give us a little rundown, I suppose, of who your familial and distillery team is, just for the people that don't know who Stuart is?
Yeah, my dad is fab. My dad has been working in the Scotch whiskey industry for over 40 years. So from before when I was born, she says, trying to make sure that everyone thinks she's young. She's not. So he's been working in the Scotch whiskey industry for more than 40 years. He managed Glenfiddich, Glenglassaugh, Highland Park, Girvan Grain, lots of different Scottish distilleries, and worked his way up from a production capacity into managing distilleries. So he has lots of, I'd say you could say lots of expertise in the production side of it, but also lots of contacts in the industry. So we managed to lean on that expertise quite a lot when we're doing things with Tipperary. I don't think we wouldn't be halfway to where we are now if it wasn't for Stuart. Like he provides us with like a ridiculous amount of expertise. It's absolutely incredible. And if we can't do something ourselves, if Stuart by any chance doesn't know the answer to a question we have, he has so many contacts in the industry from working there for so long that we can just pick up the phone and ring someone. So it just makes life a lot easier. And probably the same with my husband. My his family have been farmers for about 5 generations now. So if there's something that we're having issues with on the growing side, we can always pick up the phone and ring someone. And like all the neighbors are farmers. We know everyone's a farmer, so there's always a problem. The problem can always be solved, I suppose.
Well, that's certainly one way to do grain to glass or corn to cork, as they say. So why don't you tell us about what is in this glass? I'm already see a few people have been jumping in already.
Yeah, so it is. It was matured. It was grown in our railway field back in 2016. It is, I think, Olympus barley. And
I like that was quite an impressive move. It was like, I think it's it's Olympus. Yes, from the nose. I'm sure you have nosed many different types of barley, but it was quite a good look on that move.
Thanks. I totally have, but I was also like checking. I've got the QR code beside me as well, so I was checking the QR code as I went along. So it's Olympus barley, and what's a little bit more evident on the nose is it's Rioja casks as well. So it's first fill Rioja casks.
Okay, there you go. So Joseph in the comments saying strawberry jam bursting out of the glass from
yeah, all that like soft fruit, that like strawberry, raspberry, like that's what's those wine casks are giving you all that. Like we have a selection of cast down from that year. We've got some bourbons, some sherries. There's a couple of Portos, Madeiras as well, but the wine casks have come on quite quickly. So that's what we've released the last few years. I'd say in the next kind of year or two, we might start looking at the bourbons. I was going to say the sherries. I'd say the sherries will be a bit longer, but the wine casks have really matured really quickly. So that's like all those fresh fruit flavors that you get coming through. I just think that those are lovely, and they don't, because they're so big and impactful, they work quite well with it being quite a young whiskey and all that grain flavor coming through. Like the grain flavor, the grassy flavor is still quite big. Maybe a little bit of hint of dry kind of hay there, maybe a little bit of grass. And that's just because it's still quite young. Like it turned, so we harvested 16. We distilled in June 17. So we distilled this, it's 5 years old now, which is still for a whiskey quite young.
Well, I think I'm really enjoying the nose on this. I actually, while you were speaking to us initially, I went back and had about 7 different noses of this, so I'm enjoying it. I do have a question for you, but I'm going to say cheers first, and going to tuck into the glass. Just invite anyone who has held off so far to join us too. So, Slantia.
Cheers.
Sorry, the 50 ABV, is that correct?
Yeah, 50 ABV. It's a little bit high. It's a little bit higher than normal. But it's probably because I've got a personal preference for quite high ABVs. I always think you can add water, but you can't take it back. So if you have people that are, and I think a lot of our customers are real whiskey connoisseurs, like they're buying us because they like the story behind it. They like the level of detail you get behind it. They like looking into that QR code and looking at all of that information. And I think those people maybe like the flexibility of being able to add a little bit of water if they like it.
Very fair. My question for you is a sidebar. You said this was grown in the railway field. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So this is something I'm learning more from the world of whiskey as we get more kind of single farm or single farmer oriented. The farmers seem to have very distinct and unique ways to name their fields, and I've been seeing that.
Yes. Why could they not do something romantic? Do you know, I've got to market something next year, right? That's called the Big Field. The Big Field. What do you do with it? It's big, lads. Like, we were not being original here, were we?
Well,
Like,
I mean, for the purposes they need, I suppose when you've only got whatever 4 or 5 or 8 fields, it's the big one. Yeah,
nah.
their notions of your marketing connotations have gone out the window. But yeah, no, I like. I've seen some fields. It's the field with the lane at the back. Official name of the field. Which is always amused me.
And you know what? Do you know what I have literally just realized right now is that like I went along with it and I agreed with them and I was like, oh yeah, okay, that's a big field, that's a railway field. It was totally open to me to go, let's name this after a random fox or something, and we can make up a story about it. Didn't even think of that. I was just like, okay, that's the name of the field. We're gonna have to go with it. I could have. The big one is a good name. Screenshotting. If anyone else wants to provide good names, my background's not marketing. I need all the help I can get, guys. Throw it in the comments.
Well, yes, I think it's certainly. I mean, it's your brand. It's up to you whether you want to listen to the farmers or not. But yeah, a very very interesting set of naming rights on these
I shouldn't have
fields.
listened to farmers. I shouldn't have listened. I just should have made my own story.
Well, we the next time you set up a distillery, anyway.
And next time, yeah, hopefully we'll do this again.
Exactly. So Olivia is dropping in saying that she nice toasted notes, but personally she's added a drop of water. As Jennifer said, easy to add to personal taste. So that's I mean very much where we were talking about. JB dropping in with the name The Field, which popped into my head earlier on, but I thought might be a touch controversial for the Irish, and then touch controversial in the Irish and will be completely missed by every other nation on earth. And he says, great without water. Fields are not great without water, JB. That's the opposite now. No, but
they're kind of essential to what we're doing. I know what you meant though, JB. What you meant.
Yeah,
I said that's kind of essential to what we're doing. Water totally is essential.
Exactly. But yes, so if people are looking to discover, I suppose, more about Tipperary, will more of these kind of homegrown batches be coming out ahead of your own distilled releases it was 2025, you said?
Yeah, I'd say we're going to be 2024, 2025 for our own one. We're just waiting a little bit longer because we have a little bit of our homegrown barley and we can tell a good bit of a story around that. So what we're probably doing is releasing a pot still. I'm in the middle of bottling my third batch of the homegrown single malt right now. We are probably going to do our pot still later this year, so we'll release a small batch of that. That's 50-50 the big field single malt malted barley and unmalted barley. And then we've got a couple of other little secret projects I'd say will be available on Irish malts, and I'm also getting them out to my importers right now as well. If you keep an eye, if you sign up to our website, we've got a newsletter that we have been absolutely rubbish and I've sent, like, we started sending in last December, but we're going to be better this year and we're going to start telling people what happens. So we will start telling you. We've got like 2 big things that are going to go out this year, as well as the pot still. And then I'd say next year we'll start to release things that are distilled on site ourselves.
Fantastic. And speaking of your export markets, one of I'm going to ask you where they are, but one of my favorite memories of export markets in general, and I tell this story quite a lot, is flying down the motorway in Seoul in South Korea, and it's bizarrely this bizarre little bus with yourself and a number of other producers drinking one of your earlier releases. It had a light blue label, and I'm struggling with the name. But it was, pardon me?
Watershed. It was
exactly.
Watershed.
Flying down the motorway in Seoul in South Korea, drinking the Watershed at probably 11 o'clock at night. That is like one of those core founding memories for me of the Irish whiskey industry. Where in the world might we find you in exports? Do mention Germany, because I'll be killed if you don't.
So Germany, how Bremen import us in Germany, and actually this bottle here has our QR code translated into German. When you go into the QR code, you can either choose English or Deutsch. We are in Japan. We're getting a nice bit of traction in Japan now. We've got a tiny bit in South Korea. We've got a little bit in Canada, a little bit in the US. We're moving into France. We've got a nice market in Belgium. Unfortunately, not as much in Russia anymore, obviously. We've a little bit in the UK, and there's definitely a market I'm forgetting. But if you go into our website, tipperarydistillery.ie, and go into the contact form, everything in the world comes to me. Drop me an email. It will be me that answers it. As Matt says, I am the type of person that will be drinking whiskey in a bus at 11 p.m. on a random night. So if I don't answer you till the next day, that's probably why.
Some last questions. Will you be at Whiskey Live London this year? Will you be at Whiskey Live Dublin this year?
Oh, big questions. I don't know. If I am not there exhibiting, I'll probably be there drinking at both.
Okay, very good. Well, Jennifer, thank you so much. That was Tipperary Homegrown Barley batch number 2, 50% ABV. Again, as always, if you're subscribed to 3 Drams, it will be dropped into your inbox with a lovely discount code at the end of the show, probably in about 10 or 11 minutes time. So keep an eye out for that. Jennifer, thank you so much for your time. I hope you've enjoyed yourself. I know that we have enjoyed having you here.
That was fab, Matt, and I hope you're feeling better soon.
I will. This has helped me along, and I hope you're well helped along as well. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks, everyone else. Cheers.
Okay, I am delighted to be welcoming Brendan Carthy from Killowen Distillery with his rum and raisin batch 7 to the show. Brendan, how are you doing? You are on mute. Before you start talking, you're going to need to unmute yourself, my friend. It's 2023.
The Brown Oral.
There you go. Fantastic. How are we doing? We're having a good evening.
I know it's getting much better this last 20 minutes, I have to say.
There you go. It said John really is the only one pulling off this whole we're doing well thing. Three of the 4 of the show are not well.
Much better now. I just had a really nice seafood chowder at about 4 o'clock. It might have just been a bit too rich or something. Oh, feeling much better now. Whiskey helps, you know.
Whiskey helps on occasion. Well, before we kick off, I'm going to just showcase Dram Ivor 3 right here. I'm going to pour it into my glass. There's a fun story as to why I make it so deliberate that I pour this into my glass. One of the first shows we did at 3 Drams 26 shows ago, I pre-poured Dram number 1 into my glass to start off, and I showcased Dram number 1 and then pulled up a half full glass, and then people thought that I had some like special unreleased whiskey that no one else was getting. So at that point, I had to show people that I'm drinking the same whiskey we're all drinking in the pack, because I get my box like this, lovely, comes once a month, fantastic little box, completely recyclable except for the little foam insert. Throw that in the bin, and everything else is beautifully recyclable.
It's a good fire lighter, though, isn't it?
That is the ecumenical question. But Brendan, for those that don't know you and your fantastic distillery, because as I said, 3 fantastic guests tonight. I'm very excited to talk to all of you who don't know you, who don't know Killowen. Give us a rundown, and I'm going to sit here and nose your whiskey.
Yeah, good stuff. So, yeah, look, it's a pleasure to be here again. It's actually the second time we've been on the show. I think we were on way back at the start with Jennifer as well on the same show, which is a coincidence again. And look, it's lovely to be here with you. So we're a tiny little distillery, probably the smallest in the island. I know we're talking about big farms and bigger estates there, but at the opposite end of the spectrum, you get a little speck, you know. Creel or County and Gundy and Doon. They're in the Slave Chin and Myrna, August, and Loch Harleen. So we're right in the middle of County Down on the slopes of the Mourne Mountains in Carniford Loch. It's a beautiful part of the country. Now, on a clear day, you can look down and you can see the Wicklow Mountains. Or if you climb Knock Shee, the hill of the ferries right behind us, you can just look out over and you can see the Isle of Man, and you can see Campbelltown in Scotland as well. So it really puts us in the map and puts things into perspective. And so although we're small, it's just that reassurance all the time that we can make a lot of noise, and we actually tend to do that. So we're proud of what we do. We're very proud of what we do, actually. And the main ethos of the distillery is to make high quality stuff, and we don't let anybody get in our way, no matter how big and bold and scary they are. And that's the attitude, just quality, and enjoy it.
Exactly. And you've just released your first release from the distillery and your second release from the distillery that knocked my socks off. I ended up, I think, a couple of days late to trying the sample. I was away. When I came home, my absolute, first of all, the elevation in the packaging, the first foot forward for Killowen was so unique and so brilliant, but the liquid was stunning as well. So I think a very fantastic first foot forward for the own distilled spirit. Yeah,
thanks so much, Matt. That's something we're real proud of. The barn too, if you want to translate that into English quite clumsily, it might mean authentic, but the more it means, true to origin, or the height of truth, or just the height of origin. And it's about being authentic and telling people where liquid comes from. Even with our source liquid, we're very proud of it as well. We tell people exactly where it comes from, and we do our own magic with it too. But actually, there's three barn tales going out now, because one of them went out as a charity cask for the Capuchin charity and two other homeless charities, one in Belfast, Cork Penny Dinners, and the name escapes me of the one in Belfast right now, but it was organised by Friends of Irish Whiskey, so it was a rye, and it was ways beyond its years as well. But yeah, we're here to talk about rum and raisin, though. Sorry.
Exactly. So I'm gonna pull up the picture of rum and raisin again. Yeah. As I mentioned at the top of the show, I was in Germany over the weekend at a show with a number of other Irish producers. And I'll pull myself back up here for this point. Before we jump into this, Brendan, tell us the two casks that make up Rum and Raisin. What are the two kind of main casks that have fed? But don't give us the spiel, just the two casks, because it'll feed to my point.
PX Sherry. Just sherry. PX Sherry and rum. Killowen dark rum.
This, as a person that works at brands, designs products, very few releases annoy me as much as this did, because this is one of the most ingenious fucking names of a product that I along with like 50 other whiskey producers and marketeers and salespeople were so annoyed that we never thought of it. It is an ingenious name, and I love it so much.
Cheers.
So tell us, sir, what is Killowen Rum and Raisin, the PX and rum collaboration in one bottle?
Yeah, I was just
for me, it's fantastic.
You always just mix your drinks at home, and I always just mix tons of whiskeys behind me here along the bottom and upstairs, and you always mix and match. And my two favorites are rum cask finishes and PX sherry finish, because PX sherry tastes like Christmas cake, like raisins. Or if you don't like Christmas cake, it's Christmas pudding. If you don't like Christmas pudding, then dates or whatever. If you don't like those, you like the whiskey anyway. PX sherry is liquid Christmas cake. There's lots of different types of sherries. Most of them are dry, but PX is like liquid Christmas cake. And whenever you get, we felt like we were cheating. We was like, why has nobody invented the name rum and raisin? The alliteration's good fun. Exists in the ice cream world. Everybody knows what it means. And so rum and raisin whiskey. That's what we did. So we make our own rum. We get these lovely PX casks as well. So we finished this lovely single malt inside two casks and then vatted it back together again. And we get funky rum and raisin whiskey. And it delivers on the nose, the palate, and the finish.
It literally annoys me so much how it delivers. It's ingenious. It does what it says in the tin. It is a fantastic name and a fantastic whiskey. Yeah. So I'm going to say Sláinte. I'm going to cheers to it. I'm going to jump in now for my first sip of the evening.
different from the ones before for a number of reasons. They're all different. They're different from all the batches of rum and raisin, I mean, before.
Oh, I understood you meant, yeah. So I see John saying, wow, he loved the previous 6, but this one is special.
Good man,
Then Joseph saying he's a half bottle of rum and raisin batch 2, but he's going to need a new one after tasting this. So
I'll have to explain the context of the industry, if you like. So whenever we source liquid, we source it from GND, and at the time we wanted 6-year-old or 5-year-old, and the only 5-year-old or 6-year-old at the time was coming from Cooley Distillery that GND owned and sold to the rest of the industry. There's none of that Cooley liquid left. So we're working with GND liquid. And because the demand for Irish whiskey has exploded over the past year, there's no more GND single malt available. And at the end of this year, there'll be no more 3-year-old GND single malt available. But luckily, other distilleries will probably step into the mix and offer 3-year-old. So we're stuck with what 5-year-old then do we do? And they had no more to give, but the brilliant people at GND were like, we've got some rum casks and some sherry casks, if you like. And I was just laughing. I was like, that's perfect. So we got those, and then we just put them into our own rum casks and our own sherry casks again. So it's extra rum and raisiny this time, from different spectrums, if you like, but it's still not overpowered and it's still balanced. And so that's why it's different, and every batch is different. The thing about Killowen, we never go for consistency. We just go for consistency and quality, never in flavour. It gets boring otherwise.
And 55% alcohol, is that correct?
Yeah, 55. So we done that because this is, if you like, it's almost like a core product. I know it's not because it changes, but at least we know where the prices lie. So the duty's always the same, and you can charge the same amount of money all the time. And it's the RRP in the north of Ireland is £55, and in the south end it's about €60 or €65. So that's the idea behind the product. So it's a double distilled as well, but those other core ethos of Killowen always shine through as well. It's non-chill filtered, which is vital. And as well as that, it's so all the flavour still in there, and don't water it down. Allow people to water it down themselves. So it worked out that this was 56%. So we obviously took 1% off it just to go with the consistency of, and it's usually the case. But what I like to do, sorry, my wee daughter's just come in from her granny's. She's in the background there. And I actually add into this myself half a teaspoon of water, half a teaspoon into, a nice little measure. And then I let it sit and let it air. Because if you don't need to water down a whiskey, that's fair enough. But it's always worth trying because you can enjoy it in a different way. It's like a whole new whiskey sometimes, and there's different flavours come to the fore, So if you've got a chance there, and I would advise, try a tiny drop of water, only a tiny bit. You don't want to overpower it with water or underpower it. And see what all the flavors you get.
Now I always mention I 27 times in a row I've forgotten to bring water with me jumping onto the show, so I'll have to drink it as it is, not for fear of water, but for fear of preparation.
That's fine.
But I know there's a lot of people in amongst our watchers and listeners who will have it. Brendan, for those around the world, obviously Irish malts have this. There's a discount code going out, probably actually 1 minute ago, so it should be in your inboxes. Where in the world should people be looking to find Killowen, and what things can we expect in the near future?
Well, Irish malts, for instance, we've been partners with Irish malts from the beginning. I think they came into the industry at the same time as us. So the two brothers, we were John and Robert, we've been friends with them from the beginning. So I always say, yeah, you can buy the stuff there. They're lovely folks. Then there's overseas. Yeah, in fairness, we've got two. We've got a different rum and raisin going out to. I suppose you've heard it here first. Actually, no, Matt, we heard it with you first. You leaked it to social media. You found it through the Cola website in the States. So there's a coconut rum and raisin cask. So we found a coconut rum and PX sherry together, and it's outstanding. So it's on its way out to the States. It got collected. We were aiming for St. Patrick's Day, but it might not reach there in time. So Folsom Wines in the States have got a range of our very rare, sort of single cask stuff on this as well. And then outside of that, there's also one of our single pot stills going to the States, the Baron Tool, at the same time. So it's a white cognac cask, which you kindly leaked as well. So well done there. So it's going out too. And aside from that, Italy is a good market of ours, but we tend to have a much better relationship with our importers there than we do with the folks on the ground. Maybe we've about 3 or 4 friendships on the ground. I suppose there's a language barrier there as well. But Canada as well, outside of Ontario, because the LCBO wouldn't entertain a small company like us just yet. So Quebec, we do very well around there. Germany to an extent as well. And we've just started working with folks in Brussels as well. So yeah, and soon to be South Africa, of course.
Well, fantastic. And I suppose the Killowen team, for those that don't know, Killowen is a beautifully picturesque distillery, but also a small distillery. And I know yourself and Pierce have been running the shop since day one. Have you got someone looking after exports, or does that run through your business partners, or how does that work?
Yeah, I think, the founders of Killowen Distillery are Liam Brogan and Shane McCarthy, and they're now the main runners with Two Stacks Irish Whiskey. So Killowen, to an extent, does hang out with Two Stacks when they're running overseas. So Two Stacks would be the big brother. You go on in with the muscle, and maybe a couple of cases of Killowen would run along with it. And it's fun that way. We don't play the scale game or the quantity game. Our main ethos is always just surviving and thriving with quality. I'd say is the idea. So we're happy on that front. But so Liam Brogan and Shane McCarthy, they would take care. They're good advisors. They know that side of the market inside out. But there's Shanda O'Hare as well. She's the other main player. And Pierce is now left and runs a bar in Warren Point. So it's an old school friend. So there's 3 of us with the main staff in the distillery. One other distiller, myself, and Shanda takes care of admin. But I suppose myself, I would be the main exports. So my duties would range from wiping the toilet floor to exports to packaging to everything. So everybody just mucks in where they can, and it's a much better. There's no job fatigue as a result, and that includes going to trade shows, doing tastings, and everything, and including a bit of building works now and again too. Which is cool because we're getting a new still soon as well. We're going to get a 3rd still. Yeah.
Very nice. Is it going to go in as a second wash, or is it going to go in as a spirit still?
It'll go in as a spirit still, and we'll turn our 2 current stills into a wash stills. And with that, we can double production if we just go in a little bit earlier in the morning.
It's a few more paddles in the mash tun there.
Exactly, which means we might be able to produce 2 casks a week, which is still probably Ireland's smallest distillery. What do you do?
Exactly. Well, Brendan, can people visit you these days, or what's the policy in the Mourne Mountains?
Yeah, if we're free, do contact us, and we're always welcome visitors if we're free. But check out the website. There's tours up on the website. For some reason, this month's tour is fully booked, which is great to see. There's a great demand. It's on this weekend, and then outside of that, there's tours on every other month, and then sometimes we can arrange private ones as well. So just reach out, and we'll do our best.
Well, Brendan, thank you so much for your time. I know people, at least in the comments section, are having a great time with your whiskey. What would be the RRP? Just a reminder there, I think it was £55 in the north, and
yeah, £55, 55% ABV, and if it's sterling wise, and then we're right on the border, so just across the border. Thanks to there's bigger duty in the Republic and slightly bigger taxes. And then so it ends up being 65 euro.
Okay. So. And like on the sly, being so close to the border, do you buy your butter in the south and you're washing detergent in the north, or is it?
And the diesel as well. Don't forget it.
Right, hang on. This is important. Which side now has the better deal this week? Because the taxes change things up. I will tell you before you go. I have Brendan. I've cousins from the north, and we had a big family gathering, and my lovely long dead grandmother is obviously yeah, every family has this like picturesque, angelic image of your, especially in Ireland, your teetotaler grandmother, the pioneer, you know, mass fearing or God fearing, mass going grandmother. But I
Yeah.
found out that she was an avid smuggler to her sisters in the north. She'd smuggle up suitcases full of butter, and she'd smuggle down suitcases full of washing powder.
Oh, brilliant. There you go.
And said she wouldn't tell any of the rest of the family, but she said that none of the British soldiers would ever search an old woman praying with her rosary beads.
There you go. She must be very proud of herself, you know.
Well, she never told us. It was our family in the north told us there about 2 months ago. So
and is she started drinking yet, or she's still
well, she passed away a long time ago, but no, she never started drinking, unfortunately. Fortunately for her, I guess.
My own mother was a pioneer as well, and she in the school where she was a classroom assistant, she ran the Pioneers Club. So I set up the distillery, and at 68 years of age, we broke our pledge, and now she enjoys a lot of Killowen alcohol. So there you go. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm proud of that.
I said, well, talking about your Christmas pudding, my grandmother always had poutine at home for rubbing on joints was her thing.
Yeah.
She'd always have, and I don't know, we lived in Dublin, or she lived in Dublin, so not really like in suburban Dublin, so I'm not really sure where she was getting this poutine from, but she could get it. Well, there's a famous story in our house. Of course, she was a pioneer, so she'd never drink it, and she had 7 children, and they used to nick the poutine on her, and they'd fill the bottle back up with water. So they'd take, half the bottle and fill half the bottle of water. And one Christmas, she couldn't understand why her Christmas pudding wouldn't set. And they had one of her children had stolen basically all of the poutine, and she was just adding more and more water to the Christmas pudding, thinking it was poutine, and destroyed the whole Christmas pudding anyway.
Bad eggs.
But anyway, nothing to do with Killowen, just fun stories anyway. Brendan, thank you so much for showing us your rum and raisin, one of the most fantastically named and most delicious Irish whiskies we have. I very much appreciate it. To everyone who is watching, a very big thank you to you, to the O'Donovan brothers, to Jennifer Nixon, John Cashman, a very big thank you. And of course, to everyone watching at home, you are fantastic. This is the 27th month, 28th episode. We very much appreciate you. Guys in the green room, feel free to hang out for a second and chat to each other. Everyone else watching at home, I wish I could invite you to chat, but of course, we're all around the world. Whether you're watching live or back afterwards, a very big thank you. Thank you very much, Brendan. Have a lovely evening.
Not at all. Thanks, everybody. Lovely. I'm reading all your comments and stories. Class.